This video is intended to describe a rather ambitious stationary mainframe named Zeal. Joining me today will be my whimsical stick figure chakra map, which will be utilized quite a bit for various chakric reference stimulation of the crystalline components, as well as many other tools to see here for description aids, especially the Snoopy coffee cup, obviously. And so, as a quick overview before I break down all of the intensive individual crystalline components that make up this construct named Zeal, I'll give the overview conceptual purpose of the various components seen right here and here. Has a nice little preface, like I said. So, the aspect of the pyramidal mainframe is based off a Himalayan salt lamp pyramid, which is a very effective way to quite literally purify a space. As being a very powerful negative ion generator in its own right, it makes for great space clearing by itself. Hence, it serves as the perfect apparatus to build a construct around of crystalline nature to keep it at peak efficiency charge and purification to ensure the oscillation wavelength of this entire closed-loop construct is at a peak optimal efficiency 24/7, particularly when the light is ignited. And a very critical component about that aspect as well is utilizing the classic incandescent bulb to actually generate the heat of the bulb to actually heat up the salt is quite crucial, as opposed to LEDs, which may look nice because they light up, but they do hinder the intended functionality of this very ambitious mainframe. So I wanted to, of course, have that well addressed as the first things first. And obviously, for such an ambitious mainframe, 25-watt incandescent of this size works as the most powerful emanation of heat to ensure the hottest threshold of this entire device. Hence, it's kind of like a little joke. It's like putting a V8 in a small car like a Shelby Cobra. Big engine for this candle, basically, to have a stronger emanation of purification as a baseline. And what's great about that, too, of course, when this is stationary and ignited in a configuration intended by its function with this ground plug over here, it also serves as a consistent wavelength in this energy, which means that the frequency pitch oscillation is consistent as a light bulb, opposed to fluctuations. I'll stop my digressions there, but that's the big aspect of why the mainframe is quite an advantageous construct to basically have a tower of compatible technology be a very high yield frequency space augmenter. So back to my overview. So based upon the pyramidal structure seen right here, before I discuss each of these guys, I'll discuss a very critical feature that's of the essence to get really well notarized, first things first, of utilizing a outlet clip right here, grounded, clipped into the primary wire of the construct, which runs a wire down here and straight into the outlet ground. So why that's so critical to discuss as a quick preface is that down here, this right here, this banana plug is grounded into the bottom of the outlet, which by law is part of the ground sequence, which conjoins all of the outlets in any given space, all throughout the entire structure, which goes into a copper rod driven somewhere on the premise, oftentimes 8 feet long, so that all the outlets are being conjoined by law based on the aspect of actually being able to bypass lightning is the big prerogative, as well as any other electrical malfunctions, so that the energy of the entirety of this construct is being piloted through an entire space into the copper rod to make a grounded containment, so thereby piloting a tangible containment field through any given modern electrical engineering structure called a house, a commercial space, a hotel, you name it. If it's up to code, it has to have this feature of safe energy bypass, which is well leveraged with this construct's intentional purpose. So that'll make more sense. I'm discussing, of course, the vast composition of this construct being most importantly purified, charged, and grounded through an entire space. Hence, it's a very high-yield, dynamic, heavy-duty stationary mainframe. So, on the 4 sides of the pyramid, I will discuss the aspects of the power pack of earth in various compositions, which I will circle back to, fire, as well as back here is water, wind, and as a dominant wider lateral radius, the base would be love, or considered also ether, of the 5 elements. So that the conjoining base lateral of the pink ray of rose quartz and clear quartz works as a very dominant, wider radius of love vibration. And all of these power packs have been affixed to the transmutation ratio, which is a critical grounding function found in virtually all light tech for a distinct purpose. And at the crown jewel, at the apex of the pyramid, is a very, very important fun feature of a love currency has been highly augmented with a full rainbow spectrum ignition sequence based off the commissioning of the wonderful Wizard of Sedona, Mr. Stephen A. Ross. So by the time this video has come out, there's been many augmented renditions of this love currency in wide distribution quite literally across the world at this point. And so the aspect of why that's a fun fact is that this amazing coin commissioned to existence on both sides says with love, in love, and through love, then a beautiful heart, open mind, and a humble spirit. I consider those absolute timeless truths that are pretty incredible to have the privilege of augmenting around it. So this whole construct also serves the dramatic foray of the expansion of such an ambitious endeavor of essentially energizing a modern magical sigil to have significant vibrational compound interest through creation, through the love currency augmentations. So that's exactly why at the very apex of this pyramid, the crown jewels, if you would be the representations of one side of the coin as well as the other. I guess I'll have to get up and show it right there. Both at the apex of the pyramid construct to serve as a full rainbow light spectrum generator on both sides. So that kind of serves as a little bit of a preface, as well as it's been installed with these auxiliary hard grounds right here with alligator clips seen like so, that are developed to be able to, of course, ground in compatible technology such as the wands and the talismans in distribution as well, so that it has a more direct ground to the primary wire of seen right here for the main vein of this construct, for example. Then to be able to ground it in like so synergizes the energy to this entire ambitious mainframe. Thereby, whatever frequency augmentation amplification of the compatible devices, particularly a light blade wand of the pink ray seen right here, can be grounded through to calibrate, charge, and purify the circuitry of this device to a very high threshold, in tandem with the mainframe's stationary designated very dynamic vibrational threshold. And what that means too is the aspect of having this hardwired here works to efficiently charge and purify this to a very high capacity, as well as be part of the mainframe network to generate significant vibrational compound interest, and perhaps most importantly, has a very good contingency of, once again, grounding this through the space to run through all of the outlets to ground to the copper rod into the earth to perpetually generate a tangible etheric containment field. At the very top of this band right here is a very exotic composition at the very apex lateral band of this entire apparatus, would be that of what I could deem as the sorcery ratio, which of course was the big preface of the construct's conception, but obviously to have that much alchemical theurgy capacity, having a great amount of contingencies for equilibrium was of the essence for maximum efficiency, stability, and tangibility. So obviously this is a very ambitious construct for a very ambitious feat, quite simply. So, but I'll be discussing all that in detail now, but I wanted to give a nice introduction, overview, before the intricacies of the complexity is discussed, as a good preface of that this is, of course, developed to be a very dynamic earth, fire, water, wind, love, grounded, intensive vibratory threshold, grounded into a space to run the energy through all the outlets to basically craft a magic castle. Which I feel is a pretty good preface dissertation. Now, without further ado, I will get into the intensive complicated nature of each of these power packs. So like I mentioned, this would be the Earth bandwidth designation with a very exotic crystalline composition. So all of these power packs of Earth, Fire, Water, and Wind have been all set up exactly the same way with various crystals of complementary elemental correspondence incorporated into the operating system. But the big aspect of the cores are all universal in these few effects, which I'll discuss right now to get this out of the way. The wooden core of each of these power packs is actually from a sycamore tree who is grounded into the water of Oak Creek in Sedona, Arizona 24/7, which means that's a very abundant, healthy tree who never goes thirsty under any circumstance. The roots are quite literally in the riverbank of Oak Creek, which is a very, very good platform for this purpose. Of course, that tree is a good donor alignment of a carbon-based wood ray sacred one-legged to be the great example of a Sedona-inspired energy construct, which has great effect on the entirety of the base of the composition. So that's why that's important. Having the sycamore well notarized on each of the power packs is quite advantageous for the purpose of many multilateral theoretical concepts, such of course as the water of the passing next to the tree. If this is in alignment with the tree itself, the energy transference of the tree, the donor, is having a very highly augmented auric field, which of course is transferring into the water of Sedona's waterway 24/7 of Oak Creek. But that's enough theoretical dissertation. Back on topic. So the sycamore core has been hewn, seen on both sides, and sanded next to the selenite, seen right here, the white crystal. So the selenite is always a very prominent feature of any light tech construct for a distinct purpose, which I'll discuss right now. So selenite by itself is a very fantastic full light body activator, particularly the aspects of working as a fantastic way to clear debris between the 6th, 7th, and 8th non-physical chakras back to one's higher self Godhead, which makes it a very advantageous frequency for the spiritual adept to have an unobstructed, conscious higher self connection. Could be the greatest aspect of this crystal. But the aspect where it really shines too, with that high frequency induction, it also works to make a purification through high divine resonance to burn off stagnancies through the auric field from top to bottom, making it truly a master healer crystal when it comes to the vibratory resonance of one's etheric template made manifest. So by itself, it's quite the master healer frequency, but where it always shines in any given light tech device is this critical fact. It can take these entire frequency power packs in a closed loop reactive circuit, of all of them for that matter, and it can work to purify all of these crystals in the circuit. It can also work to amplify or intensify all of them, but perhaps most importantly, it brings equilibrium and harmonization of the entire crystalline pitch in a closed loop circuit for each of the earth, fire, water, and wind power packs, which is a very, very critical feature because obviously that's the tenets of being in impeccable efficiency as far as I'm concerned when it comes to my life's work into practical action. So that's a very critical feature to really have that well discussed and notarized to be comprehensive on the subject of their criticality. And affixed to the selenites on both sides would be the 4 spectrums of kyanite of black, orange, green, and blue. So the aspects of kyanite are the most rapid transfers of energy in the mineral kingdom, which has very diverse effects, particularly in conjunction with a very ambitious energy construct such as this. Kyanites, which I will be using my pen to move whimsically fast to do my best to illustrate the rapid transference ratios of the kyanite spectrums. Black kyanite is the most effective rapid black-gray grounder of the Earth of rapidly calibrating the root chakra, the Earth stars, into the Earth for the quickest reprocessing absolutely possible, which has great aspects of being a contingency to ensure the energy pitch is always grounding through the Earth as quick as possible and efficiently, as well as the aspect of being a further agent to bring tangibility to this entire ambitious frequency construct to ensure the contact patch going to Earth is at a very quick ratio to make it real, which is the whole point of all these vibrational engineering endeavors, quite frankly. Then right here will be the orange kyanite, which works as a rapid sacrum creativity alignment to one's highest factory blueprint setting. So another thing I'll discuss right now about kyanites, they can also serve as another layer of etheric Teflon with the aspect of rerouting buffering energy so quickly. Stagnant energies of false self matrices are highly discouraged of actually sticking in the field, which makes it quite the crucial fact to really discuss as well. And with the orange kyanite, it works very particularly fast to bridge past creativity, blockages, and beliefs of limiting natures, which is very, very liberating and freeing to one's higher sovereign divine connection. Then the green kyanite over here Also works as a fantastic heart bridge at a very quick ratio to, of course, interpersonal love, people to people, the source of creation. Green kyanite's a very dynamic, refractive green ray heart chakra stimulant that really makes very quick heart chakra connections at a very, very, very high yield. Hence, the kyanites have been illustrated with whimsically fast penmanship. Then the blue kyanite works as a very fantastic third eye stimulant that works very diligently to basically entrain and mitigate cross interference between the right and left hemispheres for whole brain thinking, aka the awakened third eye. So which also makes for another very fantastic rapid transference ratio. So the four combined make for the most dynamic movement energy very quickly at the quantum etheric level for rapid transferability of tangibility, which could be a pillar tenet to the fundaments of sorcery, if you would. So like I mentioned, that'd be the cores discussed of all four power packs, built exactly the same way, of the selenite, the kyanites, all identical base platforms before the exotic diverse compositions are be discussed that will be, of course, be honoring the designations of the earth, fire, water, and wind. And down here is a very critical component for efficiency named smoky celestial quartz. So smoky quartz, which I'll mention a little bit up here, is a very fantastic, common, classic, thank goodness, black gray crystal that works very effectively to ground all excess energy through root chakra into the earth for reprocessing, which works as a great composting of energy, or another layer of etheric Teflon, which is one of my favorite whimsical jokes to employ for the concept. And so the aspect of the smoky quartz also makes for fantastic grounding of energy, which is great for purifying and transmuting negativity to give a safe bypass for etheric dialysis, obviously. But the aspect where it really shines too is the growth structure of the celestial has a very special auric stimulation compatibility. That makes it quite fascinating. And it gets a little extra far out if as a disclaimer, but I'll do my best to keep it concise and coherent. So the celestial structure works as a alignment resonance of one's higher self template in perfect equilibrium. What that means, it also works as a dimmer switch or an auto calibration of the frequency pitch auric field in contact emanation with this frequency to ensure the right amount of vibrations being translated into the auric field is always being governed based on the higher self template, which also kind of means it's a layer of divine intervention, if you would. And it is quite the challenge to speak of this nature in a very rational, coherent manner, because it is quite meta and very, very far out, to put it very lightly. And so the aspect of the celestial also works as a surge protector for the entirety of the construct, because this is a given by now, I'm sure. But all these individual components have been grounded to a primary wire of the power pack, which has been grounded to the entire circuit. So this entire construct before us is indeed a closed-loop reactive device. And all these crystals are developed here to, of course, synergize with the entirety of the crystalline family, seen in the structures here, much like organs of an entity, so that they all work in tandem together for one comprehensive, very dynamic threshold vibratory device. And so, back to the target of why I bring up those individual nodes is the aspect of the celestial quartz. It works in synergization with the entirety of the construct to ensure the frequency pitch is always at an equal optimum that meets one where they're at and does not, of course, overstimulate or overfluctuate. It works very diligently to auto-calibrate the frequency pitch reception, such as, for example, relevantly, having guests over to the space where this will be installed. The frequency pitch of this emanation will work to auto-calibrate in real time with the recipient of the field, someone entering the field, to make it as comfortable, as efficient as possible for the most dynamic positive energy transference without overcharge. That's where the development there. That's why these are such critical components in virtually all light tech, particularly of very high yield nature, to work as a governor in that capacity. I believe that's enough of that. And so all four of these power packs have also been affixed with fulgurite, seen down here. Fulgurite is petrified lightning, which is literally lightning striking sand containing the power of lightning. If I could say that 5 more times, if I have to. So this was a classic spirit tool of antiquity that was utilized by shamans of old to actually resonate with the force of lightning to intensify their magic or their prayers or their medicine for the services of magic. And so that was a very cool, fun feature of once again, I'll say it, like shamanic antiquity utilization of high yield harnessing of lightning to intensify the vibrations through the field, which also serves as a very powerful full light body activator in its own right, literally harnessing and harmonizing with the power of lightning from top to bottom, which also makes for a nice intensification, amplification of prayers. So obviously this entire crystalline construct can be denoted to being consciousness-assisted technology, which will work in tandem with the consciousness of the wielders to amplify the overture. Anyhow, getting back on track, staying focused on the crystalline composition before I discuss any theoretical application. So right here would be black tektite, which is a product of nickel and meteorite impacting the sand. So that's a very special black ray crystal that is the quintessential heaven to earth frequency in a black ray format. So since it's born of a celestial impact into the earth, it holds that cosmic jolt vaporization of the heat and the pressure to actually make this space obsidian, if you would, which luckily it's a black ray crystal, which means its vibratory rays of the earth stars up have a very intensive threshold increase from a foundational setting, which makes it a very nice earth It's definitely a storm frequency of all the spectrums because it is a celestial body impact. But the aspect of why this is such an advantageous frequency is that it raises vibrations, once again, from a foundational standpoint, from the Earth stars up, to intensify and raise Kundalini from a very foundational standpoint, which is very important. Then to the right up here would be specimens from Sedona, Arizona, more particularly the very apex top of Bell Rock, which is near the village of Oak Creek, which have been utilized here to be a nice homage to the Sedona frequency from a very powerful monument of beautiful natural creation. And the high iron content found in there also makes for another very powerful rapid grounding of energy into the earth. Hence, Sedona is a very, very special place of magic for this purpose, to make a very efficient making magic real concentration of the red ray to further bring it into reality. Then to the left of those guys is a very exotic crystal named Prophecy Stone. Prophecy Stone comes from remote Libyan desert, which is a very fun fact, and the gentleman who found it had an unexpected prophetic vision when he engaged it, so it became the trade name Prophecy Stone. So this pseudo-hematoid, which means it has parts of iron in it, it actually has a very interesting story of apparently having metals found in the structure that are not on our periodic table, which means it has space metal. Very cool fun fact. Very mysterious. But why that's practically applied in a vibrational circuit is the aspect of having a very powerful celestial 6th, 7th, 8th non-physical chakra stimulation, yet its high iron matrix also brings a strong contact rounding of this celestial energy through the earth stars into a very tangible range. That's why this stone right here, this space metal based crystal, is very powerful applied in a frequency to, of course, encourage the rapid divine alignment into tangibility. There'll be a lot of these themes in common here for one designated goal. I'm just, of course, breaking down the individual specifics of these different various crystals that make up the entity of Zeal. Okay. All right. So up here is a lovely big piece of shungite. Shungite is a black ray crystal in vogue these days and age for being very famous for mitigating EMF 5G wavelengths. So it's a carbon-based black ray crystal that works like a purification, just like any other transmutation black ray agent, but also has a very nice full light body healing, decrystallization of any weak patterns that be impeding one's healthy flow. And like I said, it's quite in vogue for being a very famous 5G unnatural harmful wavelength emanator neutralizer, hence in a mainframe circuit that goes a long way for a very dynamic shielding of an entire space. So by golly, I believe that would be just the Earth power pack. Now, this should go much quicker now that the entire dissertation's out of the way. I'll clip these guys to be able to move this guy around. So I'll be doing it from the foundation up of Earth, Fire, to Water, then Wind. So this right here will be the fire power pack, obviously with these auxiliary clips seen like so, to be able to plug into compatible devices like I mentioned. And I'll plug it back in here for this dissertation's sake. So, Goodness gracious, I have so much to talk about. I forgot about the primary blade band. I beg anyone's pardon. Obviously, this is a great ordeal and a Herculean endeavor to keep everything straight in a very linear fashion. There's so much to talk about. So yep. No more digressions. So the aspect of that's quite critical that I've omitted previously would be the blade band frequency around the entire perimeter right here of this power pack, which definitely puts in the earth bandwidth frequency range. Anyhow, so the clear quartz seen right here works as a massive natural neutral amplification of the entirety of the closed loop circuit, as well as puts in the realm of, once again, consciousness assisted technology for resonance of the wielder to amplify the intention of the entire construct, which makes it very, very compatible resonance wise with vibratory broadcasts or prayers or magic, if you would. So it has many tiers and purposes that are very almost demanding to discuss in a full comprehensive video, for it's so complex, and the aspect of a dissertation. Anyway, enough of my whimsical digressions. So right here, the clear quartz works as a neutral amplification of the earth bandwidth frequency seen right here. Starting off with the classic red jasper, the most stabilized earth frequency mineral in the mineral kingdom, utilized in ancient Egypt to actually promote fetal growth, as well as be tied to newborns to encourage the strong body to have a good advantage of growth. So it's a very, very stable frequency, which I really, of course, adore, because I do adore its stability quite severely, particularly in these very ambitious endeavors. So red jasper is a very humble but very tremendously potent stabilization of the root chakra. So in tandem with that would be golden healer quartz, which would be a common theme mentioned throughout the entire the blade bands as well. Golden healer quartz is a very special crystal that's a gold white light source high heart attunement frequency that puts alignment to the source of creation. So using the golden healer quartz as a subcapacitation of this entire sequence, all of these power packs of earth, fire, water, wind will have a dose of source attunement for impeccable alignment, which will be more comprehensive and should make more sense as time goes on. And so the golden healer quartz, of course, puts the source in sorcery, which is very, very advantageous for any disposition to have a strong, clean vibrational attunement to the gold white light source of creation. That's pretty self-evident, so I'll go and continue on. So the golden healer quartz then goes into the ruby seen right here. Ruby is a very classic red ray root chakra stone of antiquity that's quite literally been deified as a precious stone of great magical notarization at this point in human history. And so the aspect of the corundum-based, very hard, oftentimes 8.5 or 9 out of 10 the hardness scale, makes a very dynamic, strong vibration of the root chakra for the Zest for Life quintessential cardinal earth frequency. That's why, of course, in tandem with the most stabilizing of the earth frequencies, most stimulating, it makes for a very dynamic, powerful earth root chakra correspondence. Then right here, as part of the sequence goes on, goes back into the red jasper, the ruby, clear quartz, then goes into classic garnet. Garnet is another red ray crystal of antiquity that's been well praised as another fantastic Zest for Life earth frequency bandwidth. So when you combine the three together with the source octave, it makes a very, very dynamic root chakra red ray earthy frequency. Hence, that's the earth power pack completely in a nutshell finally. Now it's time to move on to fire and move the main frame like so. Okay, so this time around, I'll discuss the blade band around first before I go into the various composition. So right here would be a very classic orange ray crystal of antiquity named carnelian, highly praised by the Egyptian mystery schools for being a stone of Horus. So carnelian is a very fantastic orange fire elemental frequency that has a nice sacrum stimulation, yet also stimulates the root, the sacrum, and the solar plexus. It's a comprehensive lower three chakra stimulant, which works in tandem fantastically with the golden healer quartz to once again bring source into the circuit, in tandem with the tiger's eye. Tiger's eye is a fantastic alignment of the lower three chakras. Hence, the carnelian can be considered the great stimulation of the lower threes, with the sacrum particularly in mind. Then the tiger's eye further directs the lower three chakras in perfect alignment, which of course makes for a comprehensive, very effective lower 3 chakra root, like of lower scaffolding, ideally perpetuate basically in this closed loop circuit. Then go into clear quartz, carnelian, golden healer quartz for source energy, into tiger's eye, and so on for a complete sequence. Then down here would be a lovely raw specimen of golden healer quartz, much like seeing the bead format. This is a raw specimen to be another gold white light source attunement frequency. Then right here would be classic citrine right here. Citrine is oftentimes a heat-treated amethyst, which has been turned from purple to gold, which makes a very golden ray illumination to the entire light body, as well as a nice solar plexus stimulant. Then right here would be fire agate. Fire agate is the most stable vibrations of the fire spectrum of the mineral kingdom to stabilize the lower 3 chakras once again in a fire elemental spectrum. There'll be a common theme for all the agates and jaspers, which I will address probably later on, but they all intentionally play off each other in a very critical fashion. Then sunstone is a very fantastic feldspar-based fire energy of the solar plexus and the sacrum, a very, very sun-funny, vibrational, joyful inducer. Then right here, this would be star argonite, which is actually part of a holy trinity of master healers I employ quite frequently, but I'll keep on topic. Star argonite is a calcium-based, full light body activator that works very diligently to stimulate and purify the entirety of the auric field from top to bottom. So it works very, very effective for a full light body healer to quickly and comprehensively and gently dismantle any patterns of dis-ease from top to bottom to decrystallize patterns of stagnancies through the entire auric field. For a more idyllic free flow of energy, that translates to a more impeccable avatar nature, quite simply. Then right here is quite the very special, powerful fire energy named zincite. Zincite is perhaps the most powerful fire elemental frequency in the mineral kingdom, just about in raw sheer activative force. And so zincite is a very powerful dynamic activator lower 3 as well that has very, very explosive activations of lower 3. Hence it's utilized in great reverence and of course with a great deal of contingencies for efficiency in mind. Hence this guy's got that covered in spades. But the zincite also makes for a very dynamic creative force stimulant that works very powerfully to put one in their highest power of creativity in the third dimensional plane, which is why it's very applicable here and was worth the discussion. Then right here in the firepower pack would be a very legendary fire frequency of Libyan gold tektite. This gold ray crystal was, once upon a time, the crystalline structure utilized by the pharaohs of antiquity, who were the Magi god king of Egypt, as a very powerful golden ray, solar plexus and sacrum stimulant. Also, it as a fire energy, also works as a full light body activator as well. And what I consider to be one of the quintessential dharmic accelerants to put one in touch with their divine path very quickly in full manifestation. So it's a very, very powerful golden ray crystal of manifestation. In that matter, it was literally fit for the kings of antiquity of Egypt. Very fun fact. So it's a very, very amazing, beautiful crystal of very mysterious origin, much like moldavite, that has the jury scratching its head on exactly how it got here, where it came from. Which I will just continue on because this video is already long enough as it is. At the very apex up here would be a white calcite, which could be considered a fire energy, hence it's been employed here. Yet this white calcite has been tumbled by the ocean for millennia or eon. Who knows? Literally God does know. But the whole point is that this white ray crystal makes for a very full clearing of staying energies for light body as well with oceanic imprintation. So I'll probably be condensing a few of my descriptions to keep this video a little shorter. Well, I guess we'll see where the chips land as I get there. So this would be the water frequency seen right here. And the blade band starts off with the clear quartz to be the neutral accelerative energy going into the classic emerald. Emerald, of course, is a quintessential stone of abundance, of green ray, of great notarization and deification in human history as a true precious stone, which makes for a very impeccable heart chakra alignment. Hence, it's been utilized quite effectively in the Abundance Crusade of 2025 as a very primary contributing factor of that vibration. Emerald is a very amazing heart chakra activator and quintessential alignment to one's divine quantum inheritance of abundance, in that nutshell. Then going into the golden healer quartz for that gold white light source attunement once again. Then going into moss green agate. Moss green agate is a water elemental stabilization green ray heart chakra stimulant that is the most stable vibration for the heart chakra in the mineral kingdom. Hence, its employment is quite critical to really discuss this. Then going into clear quartz to be a neutral accelerant into aquamarine, which is emerald's blue ray cousin. Aquamarine, of the same hardness of the beryl family, also has a very powerful water frequency of the 4th and 5th chakra stimulation. So it's a very powerful cardinal water frequency through the entire sequence here of, once again, the emerald, golden healer quartz, moss granite to stabilize the wavelength pitch, clear quartz, then aquamarine to be the perfect 4th and 5th chakra stimulant. And that'd be the water frequency sequence. So down here, once again, is the fulgurite, just like mentioned over here, on all 4 power packs, to be the lightning force going through the entire construct of the individual nodes. Then right here be blue lace agate, which is a water elemental 5th chakra stabilization agent, which is very advantageous, particularly for those in a teaching position, such as the recipient of this construct. Then right here would be turquoise. Turquoise is actually technically a storm element, but it also could be very applicable to be neatly fit into the water frequency, because turquoise is a very classic stone of antiquity as well, of being a very fantastic 5th chakra stimulant, combining the aspects of earth, fire, water, and wind of the terrestrial elemental spectrum of what can be considered the Lakota medicine wheel. So that's why that's there for a distinct purpose, being a full pranic 5th chakra truth induction enhancement. Then right here will be green serpentine. Serpentine is a very fantastic, underrated, full light body activator as well, and a Kundalini serpentine stimulant. It also works very diligently to be a very effective cellular respiration agent for the entire light body as well. Another one of those master healers. Many of these, of course, will have a very prominent common theme. Speaking of true master healers, this would be Seraphinite seen right here. Seraphinite, named after the Seraphim Archangels, is a very, very powerful full light body healer and stimulant that is one of my top 5 favorite crystals, I dare say so, due to its utilitarian, effective, comprehensive nature. Seraphinite stimulates the entire light body and dismantles any patterns from top to bottom that be contributing as dis-ease in all its capacities. So it's a very, very effective master healer as part of the Holy Trinity I mentioned with the Star Argonite, as well as the Seraphinite, and there's Tibetan Black Quartz, which I'll get back to, of course. I have to stay on target, obviously, which is already a Herculean endeavor, like I mentioned. Then right here will be the legendary Moldavite, seen right there in this little cluster. So Moldavite is quite literally a stone that's become quite famous or infamous, depending on who you're asking, based on its very intensive crystalline vibrational capacity of rapid change. So the aspect of Moldavite has a great amount of legend lore, which I will omit to condense this video as much as possible. So this is already going to be a very long video, so I might as well cut corners where I can for the endurance of the viewers. And so, but the important fact here about the Moldavite is that it makes for a very quintessential, I would dare say, indisputably powerful dharmic accelerant of very rapid heart chakra activation of storm alignment to one's true nature. So that kind of dharmic acceleration is where it gets a bad rap for literally being very taxing on the felt self matrix, to put it lightly and nicely, of one's one's alignment with their divine connection. I laugh because it's such a infamous crystal, and I can have dissertations in my own time. Anyhow. And so the Moldavite, of course, works as a very powerful dharmic accelerant to put one's divine connection in rapid overture. And so obviously, this being said as a contingency, there's been many different stabilization translocation agents to mitigate the timeline whiplash of that much hurricane cosmic force alignment to one's dharmic truth in manifest totality. But staying on topic, Moldavite is quite the powerful stone of crystal and magic, and is associated with the Holy Grail of being a dramatic divine alignment talisman of one's highest truth, and why indeed they're born here, as a nutshell. So obviously that makes for a very powerful spiritual accelerant in a circuit with this entire mainframe for a very significant, powerful, divine alchemical accelerant device, essentially. So that's another contributing factor that plays a critical role to really give this guy a lot of zeal, to put it lightly. Then right here above that would be chrysoprase, which is a very fantastic green ray crystal of the water elemental spectrum as well, as a very fantastic third and fourth chakra stimulant, and that of a very healing capacity and also a great promoter of altruism. And it basically, of course, in working in ways of with love, in love, and through love, quite simply. And so it's a very, very fantastic underrated green ray crystal that's pretty nice. Then going into prehnite seen right here, which is a Watcher Earth frequency alignment green ray crystal that stimulates the third and fourth chakras, and it can be considered another master healer that works very diligently with the entire emotional energetic body to dismantle patterns of dis-ease and their variations. But the aspect why it's quite relevant here is that, in my humble opinion, upon great resonance and utilization of this green ray crystal prehnite, it makes perhaps one of the most clean attunements to the Seraphim of Source, Raphael the Archangel, who is a green ray Klohan of great seraphic grace and healing, which of course is a very advantageous alignment to have as a background attunement frequency, kind of like setting the dial to the Raphael force is what this guy is about. And so that makes for a very, very advantageous green ray water elemental frequency in this construct as well. Then at the very top right here would be another bolt of nice raw emerald to fortify the impeccable heart chakra activation of emerald, once again being a quintessential water elemental heart chakra stimulant. And that would be water. Now I actually feel like I'm making some good pace at this point. Now I'll have to switch to wind. Last but certainly not least. So the blade band of wind, starting off with clear quartz seen right here as a neutral accelerant, going into lapis lazuli, a classic stone of antiquity, quite literally a favorite of millions for thousands of years for a good reason. Its beautiful blue color also harkens back to the times of ancient Egyptian antiquity as a homage frequency crystal of Isis. And so with that blue ray concentration, it makes for a very powerful sovereign enabler of wind elemental frequencies of the 5th and 6th chakra stimulation, which is a very powerful sovereign agent to keep one in resonance with their highest truth, as well as a very powerful agent of past life recall. And most importantly, past life recall and application of one's sovereign gifts into practical action. That perhaps could be the greatest gift of this guy right here, is to make the magic of one's soul archive real. Because of course, we all, as humans, we all have it all in our astral muscle memory of various magical skills and, of course, gifts to contribute to the whole. This I consider a very effective agent to enhance that capacity to keep that alignment in real time with the conscious self of one sovereign truth in service to creation, as a very special crystal. Actually, of course, they're all special, but you get the drift. Going into golden healer quartz, once again, to be that gold white light source attunement, common theme of all the elements, to keep it all aligned to source alignment. Obviously, is a very advantageous disposition. Then, right here, this would be amethyst. Amethyst is a classic purple ray stimulant of the 6th, 7th, 8th non-physical chakras, quite literally a very common, and thank goodness that is, and classically utilized purple ray divine stimulant of great wind elemental neutralization, considered a very purified attunement to the violet flame of purification for the aspects of Germanian followers, stuff like that nature. So of course that's a quintessential wind elemental frequency to be employed here for the higher chakra stimulation. Then right here is a very well-employed crystal of fluorite. So fluorite is an incredible wind elemental frequency crystal that I absolutely adore for a very distinct purpose. Fluorite's energy wavelength has a way of condensing and bringing coherence to chaotic disparate energies, which is very, very useful for anybody, obviously. So fluorite is a great promoter of impeccable coherence of the energy field, as well as the right and left hemispheres to mitigate cross interference that would cause distortions from one seeing clearly, quite simply, in that capacity. So that is an amazing wind elemental frequency to essentially bring chaos into order, which is very, very ridiculously advantageous in my humble opinion. Because coherence is perhaps one of my favorite words and concepts to really keep perpetually embodied, because I consider that to be very efficient. I like efficiency quite a bit, as a little disclaimer. And so the aspect of the fluorite as a background wind elemental frequency will also work to really, of course, bring great amounts of perceptual as well as internal coherence to the entire energy field by design. So once again, that'd be the Wind Elemental Power Pack Blade Band. Then starting off with the wind frequency of special notarization of Chaurite, seen right here. So Chaurite is a very fantastic purple ray dharmic stimulant, accelerant, I would say, because it works very effectively to activate obviously the 6th, 7th chakras, 8th, non-physical chakras, but also with the black ray inclusions of dendric, works very diligently to bring this energy through the Earth stars in its own right, independently by itself, to ground this energy very effectively of one's light body dharmic path, their golden thread, if you would, into full view. Obviously, there's many contributing factors of this entire composition that support and foster this very ambitious goal full of zeal, of a very comprehensive light body activator. So a lot of these things play off each other intentionally with great efficiency for efficient dharmic acceleration into tangible realization. And that's a very important contributing factor towards that goal. Then right here is labradorite, which is a wind elemental feldspar-based crystal, which is quite mysterious and considered a quintessential stone of magic, of seeing through the veil, for example. So it's a very nice little dose of that very exotic, powerful shamanic aid. Then right here would be Tibetan black quartz from Tibet, which actually, of course, has a very powerful ohm resonance from its locality of perhaps one of the most unbroken lineages of spiritual discipline that we have in our modern history we can refer to, of the Tibetan ohm. So this makes for a very powerful full light body healer as well, that works very diligently through the entire chakra column, just like its cousins, vibrationally speaking, of the seraphonite and the star argonite I mentioned. This would be the three of the Trinity I mentioned earlier, of being all comprehensive full light body healers that work very diligently to dismantle patterns of dis-ease in their various manifestations, quite simply. Then next to that would be scolecite, which is a white ray crystal of what I consider the quintessential stone of divinity. So the aspect of scolecite makes for a very soothing stimulation of the 6th, 7th, 8th non-physical chakras, and puts a very powerful white divine light resonance crystalline structure for the witness self higher mind, which is very essential for a properly functioning wind elemental power pack to be in that divine space, obviously. Then right here, to have a very important contingency for this very higher chakra stimulating power pack would be holly blue agate, which is a very rare crystal. Actually, it's a purple wind elemental crystal that stabilizes the 6th and 7th chakras, but its trade name is holly blue, even though it is indeed violet, which makes for a perfect stabilization of wind. So now that I'll be discussing that, I'll take a break from the rest of this power pack to discuss the importance of the stabilizations of all the elements. So when you have the stabilization of red jasper to stabilize earth, fire agate to stabilize fire, moss green to stabilize water, then the holly blue stabilize wind, thereby even a small dose of the most stable vibrations of the respective four elements have now been represented as a background frequency to stabilize the entire overture of the elemental spectrums of this entire device. I figured that is important enough to stop my dissertation to discuss that. So right here above that would be a clear apophyllite pyramid, which is a very powerful wind elemental higher chakra stimulant as well, which I consider another clean attunement to the angelic realms, which is once again one of those self-evidently advantageous statements to make. But the apophyllite has a very special 6th, 7th, 8th non-physical chakra attunement to the higher realms of spirit, which is very nice for divine white light attunement, quite simply. Then right above that is a very quintessentially special crystal named tanzanite. Tanzanite is a blue ray crystal considered a wind elemental frequency of the most impeccable heart-mind coherence stimulant in the mineral kingdom, which I adore this crystal quite a bit for this capacity. So the tanzanite works to stimulate the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th non-physical chakras in a very impeccable, precise manner to resonate the impeccable heart-mind coherence in a crystalline structure, which is quite critical, in my humble opinion, for the spiritual adept to have that aspect, because I consider the heart-mind coherence very, very, very important for the aspect of being essentially in touch with the original internet of the quantum connection through the Akashic records, if you would, of the heart. The heart can quantumly align to all things, while the mind has limitations. So if you have the coherence of the conscious self-mind in tandem with the heart, that would be a very idyllic disposition, to put it lightly. Then above that would be a purple ray version of serpentine named Atlantisite. So stitch-tight with green serpentine has been now trade name dubbed Atlantisite, which is pretty cool. So just like serpentine mentioned over here, this purple ray variety of Atlantisite also works as a full light body activator, Kundalini raiser as well. But since it's a purple ray crystal, it kind of works like the antithesis of the purple ray Kundalini activation to get through the crown chakra and third eye very effectively of the entire raising of the serpentine energy, which is a very fun fact. It also works as a very fantastic full cellular respirator as well, and the purple ray could definitely put it in the realm of being a wind elemental frequency, which is very exotic and very special. Then once again, of course, like all 4 power packs, fulgurite. Alrighty. So that would be the entirety of the earth, fire, water, and wind discussed. Now this will take only a few moments at this point. But the aspect of the common lateral band ground at the bottom, so that could be considered the ether or love, the 5th element, being the widest radius conjoining all of the power packs. Because, of course, saying this would be self-evident, but the aspect of comes to earth, fire, water, and wind, the 4 elements are always best in proper balance. But when it comes to love, that's the one element that does not require balance or moderation, because it quite simply is just what it is. It's love. So with the clear quartz working as a neutral amplification of the rose quartz, it makes for a very dominant, intensive, vibratory pink ray love vibration as the base radius of this entire construct, which is very, very advantageous to have a love frequency broadcast conjoined. Of course, also, all these power packs have been ground to love frequency, so it's another common ground for all these earth, fire, water, and winds to travel through very efficiently, so that the common ground of all these elements is that of love. All right, now we're getting there. And so right here, oftentimes I discuss this first as a good preface, but this is just how the chips fell for this video. This would be the transmutation ratio. So all these 4 power packs have been grounded to this common ground right here of a very grounding lateral band structure. So the hematite makes for a very fantastic iron-based grounder of excess energy, which will be actually very relevant now to discuss as a contingency. So the hematite, being iron-based, is the most effective grounder of all excess energy through the root chakra firmly into the earth stars, into the earth for reprocessing. In tandem with the smoky quartz to work in the same energetic function pathway to ground and stimulate all excess energy into the earth for rapid reprocessing. The two together are dubbed the transmutation ratio, due to it being a fantastic contingency to, of course, neutralize negativity by continuously grounding the energy into earth for rapid transference, aka etheric dialysis, for, of course, very effective earth contact bypass. Then, most importantly perhaps, also is another layer of tangibility for this entire exotic range to ensure this frequency pitch is indeed grounding into the earth at a very effective ratio. Whew. Okay, so now this is finally getting to the closing actions. Next, I will go ahead and discuss the love currencies first, because this section right here is going to get quite meta, to quite simply. So right here, like mentioned almost an hour ago in this video, these are the love currencies commissioned to existence by the lovely Wizard of Sedona, Mr. Stephen A. Ross, and they have their own augmentation sequence as seen as the very apex of the pyramid, starting off with the red garnet to be the root chakra stimulant, and then the carnelian. Like mentioned, of course, I've already mentioned all these crystals virtually by now. Then the golden healer quartz and the root-plated quartz works to intensify the entire sequence of the love currency with the source energy in alignment to intensify the entire octave range of the full rainbow spectrum of source intensification around both sides of the coin, quite simply, to put it in a nutshell. So, of course, that little apex at the top is a very full spectrum resonance source intensified circuit from red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, and also a little bit of rose quartz, and some hemimorphite, which is another great white ray crystal of divinity that makes for another powerful heart-mind coherence stimulant. But that gets the idea of the love currencies now augmented at the very apex of the construct. Okay, now last but certainly not least, and one of the big prerogatives of this construct, hence I say for last because it's going to be quite the doozy to properly categorize this a very ambitious blade band. So this blade band right here could almost be considered the sorcery ratio based on its particular crystalline composition stimulation to the auric field. And it's very ambitious. So, starting off right here, actually I'll start right here. Okay, so this right here, this would be cinnabar, which is a mercury-based crystal that is very, very powerful for basically the aspects of putting one's consciousness into the realms of fluidity of third-dimensional oscillation. What I'm trying to say there is that it puts one in touch with the atomical ratios of creation to, of course, show the malleability and flexibility to be that of the sorcerer archetype. That's where it's going to get very meta to discuss these concepts, hence I saved for last intentionally, because it is a comprehensive capstone of this very ambitious construct. So the cinnabar makes for a very powerful fire energy stimulate predominantly, that very powerfully actually stimulates, luckily, the root and the sacrum, the lower two of the typical 7 chakras, to be a very, very powerful alchemical accelerant to burn off false self imprintations that divide one from their divine nature of magic, basically. Hence, it's a crystal I utilize very sparingly because it can be quite taxing on the false self matrix of the ego-mind identity of what divides one from their divine nature inherently. Hence, it's not employed very often, but hence also I've made darn sure to have a very viable dynamic contingency of the balance before it was employed without governance, which is a very critical aspect as well, because I just really, really praise efficiency and comfortability when it comes to these dramatic endeavors of vibrational engineering. So that's why I mentioned this last, is that this has been built upon great amounts of layers upon layers of contingencies for maximum efficiency for our entire space. So the cinnabar also makes for a very dynamic third eye activation that puts one's clairvoyance in a very high overture where I actually can see the atomic weave of creation. Hence, it's very, very powerful magical stuff and puts one in touch with their innate magic from other lives. It's very, very meta, to put it lightly. Which I'll go ahead and just continue on now. Going into the golden healer quartz, once again, to put the source and sorcery between this frequency bandwidth of connecting one to source attuned energy, then to another quintessential stone of sorcery called pneumite. So this is a very, very special crystal as well of primordial black ray earth frequency resonance. That would be typically denoted to being a black ray earth grounder, but it has a very special connotation of being an ancient primordial earth frequency stone of magic as well. Quite simply, this black ray crystal resonance attunement puts one into the void space, or what can be called zero-point energy fields in modern quantum physics research, which puts one in touch with the voids of creation in tandem with the source tweaking capacity, makes for the quintessential sorcery alignment. So pneumite is, of course, the black ray crystal that's very grounding in a very unique way that puts a direct resonant attunement to the void of creation, which is very, very advanced meta stuff, which I utilize pretty sparingly as well. This is a very specialty exotic blade band up here that's obviously very ambitious, to put it lightly. Then the rutilated quartz seen right here works as a massive acceleration for the entire sequence, going into turquoise, once again, as a very common top ground. So obviously the aspect of turquoise is perhaps the best fortification of the 5th chakra to really encourage this very powerful alchemical acceleration frequency, to encourage one's highest truth, consciously perceiving this abilities of magic to be engineered in the structure's vibratory sequence before it completes its circuit. So that, of course, is very advantageous for keeping one's 5th chakra in alignment with their divine magical capacity, quite simply. Hence, it's been employed there as an idyllic balance for this very dynamic, intensive biblical magic, shaking the pillars of heaven energy at the very apex, to put it very pragmatically as a little joke at the end there. Well, I believe after nearly an hour of this dissertation, crystalline rant, I have notarized all of the crystals. Wow. Okay, so as an overview, obviously discussing now the very intensive sorcery ratio at the very apex brings a very nice cherry on top at this point of being a very dynamic, very actually serious and ambitious mainframe going to a custody of a very great wizard in creation, which is a tremendous honor. And yes, it's very humbling, very profound now that this has been fully notarized. And so, the aspect, like I mentioned before, also is that this very dynamic composition has been developed, of course, after this entire crystalline dissertation to be purified by the salt lamp to keep this entire exotic crystalline pitch at peak efficiency purification to be piloted through the whole space to generate a very ambitious sorcery imbued magic of antiquity containment field through the entire outlets of a space to thereby turn it into a magic castle, which also can be considered like a mainframe tower, much like a cell phone tower for various compatible devices, like mentioned before, that could be grounded in like so, to, of course, be part of the circuitry, to be hardwired from this primary wire into the primary wire here, to be a containment, to charge the calibration, and also give it a safe bypass in resonance with the entire mainframe, so the energy being charged is being grounded. I hope that was sufficient enough explanation. Well, that would be it. This would be the very ambitious mainframe named Zeal. 1,000 blessings, and may the force be with us all.